Welcome back to our election night coverage of this 2022 midterm election here on Facebook Live. Your election authority. We've already declared Maura Healey to be the winner of the gubernatorial race here in Massachusetts. Paul Robbins, we see she right now 67%, but there's no surprise there.
No surprise. You know, she's been working for it for a long time. I know she did an article recently that said, no, I haven't been thinking about this forever. But if she's not been thinking about it forever, a lot of other people have. Like, who has been putting together a statewide army, which she has been doing.
She has, yeah.
And she's very bright. She had a very high profile in being Attorney General, taking on big, corporations and things that would, get you noticed. She's a woman.
First woman elected governor.
And female elected, correct, because we had Jane Swift. No surprise, but it's still groundbreaking. It's still historic. And so, Massachusetts did that. I think that's a good thing.
In many ways. And, you think of Massachusetts that, as progressive as we think we are, that this would have been something that would have happened a long time ago, not 2022. But
that's a good point.
Here we are, better late than never,
well, maybe
I guess.
Maybe we're not as progressive as we think we are, right? So, I think, other parts of the country have elected women to be the leaders of their countries. We haven't done that. We seem to be the ones that are saying that we're ahead of everybody when it comes to innovation in the world, right?
Day late and a dollar short. So I would think that would set the tone for the rest of the constitutional offices that, except for Bill Galvin, we're looking at constitutional offices being held all by women.
Yeah, the other thing I would say is the team are two women. Kim Driscoll at Lieutenant Governor, who, from what I hear out in the street, is drawn rave reviews. She was an executive. She ran a city. That's going to be a powerful image to show to the rest of the world. Governor and Lieutenant Governor, both women.
You look at that, the fact that Eric Lesser ran a good campaign for Lieutenant Governor. Does Eric Lesser have a role in the Healey administration, you think?
I don't think so.
No.
I think he's going to have, and I can't speak for him, I have no idea, but I think he'll do something like being a law firm or whatever. I think when you lose something like that, and I've done a lot of campaigns and I know what it's like to win, I also know what it's like to lose. That takes a lot out of you for a while to figure out what you want to do.
Sure.
I suppose you can never say never, but I would think they want to move ahead with their own team, and there's a lot of people in line probably that want to have positions in that administration. So I wouldn't see that.
How about Joe Wagner?
Joe Wagner, he can pretty much do what he wants to do.
He can call his own shot.
He can call, because he's had such a successful career. So he could end up being in the lobbying field. He'd have to wait a year, which is the requirement. He'd be great to serve in some kind of government capacity. He's a friend of mine. I've talked to him a little bit. It seems like he's going to, smell the roses for a while, but I don't think it's going to be too long before he's doing something because he'll get bored probably.
Well, he should. You think about it. I mean, running for office every 2 years is a grind, and the travel from Chicopee to Boston almost every single day, especially in the role that Joe had, a leadership role down there. It's going to be an adjustment for him.
What did Bill Belichick once say? No days off?
No days off, yeah.
There's no days off. You're in leadership, you're out here, you have to travel. The pay's not great. In Joe's case, you can name an issue: economic development, infrastructure, casino gaming. The leadership in the House tossed him the keys and said, Joe, come up with how we should do this in Massachusetts. It takes a lot out of somebody year after year after year. So.
In a couple of weeks, Joe's going to be my guest again on our Sunday morning program, just to look back on a really storied career.
Which he doesn't like to talk about.
No, but
so you'll get it out of him. I know you'll do it.
Because, I think he's one of those guys that he's done his job very, very quietly and below the radar, but he's gotten the job done.
Talk about a throwback.
Yeah.
I mean, some people are out there with a press conference before they even did the thing, right? Joe's doing a lot of stuff and never really told a lot of people about it. But the people who know the machinations in government, how things get done, they know he was behind the scenes.
And we look at that too, Shirley Arriaga running for that, and with Joe Wagner's stamp of approval, you see her getting in and carrying on his legacy. Probably.
Yeah, I do. When you have that kind of support behind you, people respect them. And then let's not forget Richie Koss, who was also beloved elected official, and Chicopee came out for her. And she knocked on the doors. We talk about this all the time. I can tell you the clients in the past when I've worked in campaigns who knocked on the doors and those who didn't. And Shirley did that. But it is a sea change. I think we're just talking about two women at the top of the ticket, right? a woman in state representative to replace Joe. Times are changing. You know, things are, there's upheaval, and sometimes it's not always bad.
In fact, in the last 4 years, how much really seniority we've lost between Tom Petrolati and now Joe Wagner leaving. That's a lot of clout that Western Mass does not have anymore.
I remember going back far enough that Linda Milconian one time was a majority leader in the Senate.
Yep.
Brian Lee's also serving Springfield. Springfield was split up, you know, between those two. Was the minority leader. And you had Joe Wagner on the rise, and you had Tommy Petrolati. You don't have that. So there's a story there about us losing some of our clout, which is going to have to be something that we all have to, you know, engage in the future.
Was Angelo Pupolo now the dean of the Western Mass delegation?
He's just a kid, isn't he?
He's just a kid, yeah. But I could, you know, I had him on the program, and we talked about that and the fact that he really would have been the front runner to replace Eric Lesser in the Senate, and he opted not to. He said, you know what? He said, I don't want to give up my seniority, and I can serve my district better and Western Mass better staying where I am.
Yeah, and it also tells you it's really hard to run for these offices. So state representative, the leap from state rep to Senate, in terms of just spending,
yeah,
we just had a race that's still going on right now between Levin Epstein and Jake Oliveira.
Yeah.
You know, that was north of $300,000 if you combine everybody's. You know, that's a lot.
It's insane.
It's a lot, and it costs less to run for state representative, and more smaller things can kind of tilt the election one way or the other. You can knock on all the doors. It's kind of hard to knock on all the doors in the Senate.
It's interesting because I was looking through for those of you who don't know, my dad was a state rep from 1966 to 68, and I found his campaign finance forms. And granted, it wasn't as complex as it is today. In his first race in 1966, he spent $500.
And I'm going to guarantee you, Dave, there was no super PAC money in there.
There was no super PAC money. We all made our own sides, too. Interesting times. All right, Paul, next half hour, we'll hopefully have more races decided, the ballot questions decided, too. I know many people saying that, pundits saying that the ballot questions are going to bring more people out to the polls than the races, so we'll talk about that. And, of course, what happens in the Massachusetts congressional delegation if, in fact, Republicans do take control of Congress over again. So that's it for now. Paul and I will be back a little after 9 o'clock to bring you more.